All right, class, we're going to try something new today. Maybe this way you'll listen. We'll give it a shot. Anyways, this is me, Mr. Herman, talking, and I recorded this morning because that's what I do in the morning is I sit around and play with the computer. I know it's kind of creepy not to see me, so I'll just put a picture of myself up there so you can look at that instead. There I am right there. You can see nice and green. All right, we're going to talk about subtracting mixed numbers. We did this a little bit yesterday. If I have a mixed number of 4 and 3/4, for example, and I subtract 3 and 1/4, that's a pretty easy subtraction problem. First, we want to look at the whole numbers, the 4 and the 3, and subtract those. 4 minus 3 is usually 1. And 3/4 and 1/4. It's nice because you can see that we have common denominators. So our denominator is 4, and our numerator is simply 3 minus 1, which is 2. That's subtracting mixed numbers. Now that's an easy example, so let's go to a medium example. Let's say that we had 4 and 2/4, and we wanted to subtract 2 and 1/2. Again, you can look at the whole numbers, 4 minus 2. That's a pretty easy thing to do, which is 2. But the problem now is we have 2/4 and 1/2. So what I'm going to do is look at those fractions and pull those down here so we can work with them a little bit. We do not have common denominators. The first thing that we want to do is to ask ourselves if we can go from the smaller number, the 2, to the 4 with multiplication. And the good news is that we can. So we simply multiply 2 times 4, 2 times 2, which will get us 4. And then we do the same thing with the numerator, 1 times 2, which is 2. So we have 2/4 minus 2/4. 2/4 minus 2/4 is 0/4. You don't need to write it. All you do is need to understand that the answer is 2. They cancel each other out. So real quick, a review on that. We started with 4 and 2/4 minus 2 and 1/2. We subtracted the whole numbers, which 4 minus 2 was 2, and then we recognized that the fractions did not have common denominators, so we wrote them down below. We started with the smaller number, the 2, and asked if we could get to the 2 from to the 4 from the 2, and we knew we could do that by multiplying by 2. So we ended up with the two fractions, 2/4 and 2/4. And when we subtracted that, we got 0, so we knew we just needed to write the whole number. Now, here's where it gets complicated. If we had 4 and 1/4 on this side, and we are going to subtract 3 and 3/4 on this side, we have a bit of a problem. If we looked at the whole numbers, 4 minus 3, well, that seems to be no problem at all. 4 minus 3 is 1. We have common denominators, which is nice, but this is where we have a problem. We have 1/4, and we need to subtract 3/4 from that. Now, one way to do this is to look at this number in particular, 4 and 1/4. And remember, what we're going to do is we're going to borrow from this whole number. So we're going to take 1 away from 4. 4 minus 1 is 3. And there is our 1, and there is our 1/4. This number and this number are the same. 3 and 1 and 1/4. 3 and 1 is 4. Now another way of writing 1, remember, is instead of 1, we could call it 4 over 4. Now if we want to combine these two parts of the fraction, 4/4 and 1/4, we could do that. 4/4 and 1/4 would be 5/4. There we go. So 3 and 5/4 is equivalent to 4 and 1/4. We simply borrowed from the whole number and we added it to the fraction. Now when we subtract 3 and 3/4, the whole numbers in this case cancel out. 3 minus 3 is 0. 5/4 minus 3/4 is 2/4. And the very last thing to do is always look at your fraction, 2/4, and see if you can find a simplified fraction. The simplified fraction would be 1/2. There's your simplified fraction right there. That's one way to solve this problem. Again, what I did was start with 4 1/4 minus 3 1/4, and I borrowed from the whole number 4, and I changed that into 3 and 1 1/4. I rewrote the way that we said 1 as 4/4. When I did that, it turned it into 3 5/4 as our final answer. I'm sorry, it's not exactly going backwards and forwards the way I wanted it to. When we subtract 3 5/4 and 3 3/4, we ended up with 2/4, but we simplified 2/4 to mean 1/2. Now if I go back to the beginning and I erase this, another way we could do these kinds of problems, and Stephen mentioned this yesterday, is we can look at these two mixed numbers and we can change them into improper fractions. So I know that my denominator is 4 in this number. 4 times 4 is 16, and 1 more is 17, 17/4. In this mixed number, the 4 is the denominator still. 4 times 3 is 12, 13, 14, 15/4. Now when I subtract 17/4 and 15/4, 17 minus 15 is 2. The denominator stays the same as a 4, and again we can simplify that into 1/2. That's the lesson for today. Good luck.